Welcome in 49ers faithful, Juju Talk Sports, Jose Corral. That's 2 reasons right there to listen and subscribe. 49ers playoff chances. Obviously, they increased after this victory against the Rams. This was a must-win game, as is pretty much every game remaining on the schedule, including this week's game against the Jaguars. Now, I tend to agree with Vegas here that the Niners will be the favorites going into that game, and there's no reason the Niners should lose that game. So they have an opportunity to go 5-5. If the season ended today, though, the Carolina Panthers would be dancing in the postseason with a 4-5 record. The Niners currently have a 4-5 record. Pretty much everyone is in playoff competition, not named the Detroit Lions, currently in the NFC. That includes the Eagles, who have 4 wins this year. That includes the Giants. The Bears are hanging around. The Vikings are currently hanging around. There's a lot of teams the Niners have to jump to make this happen. And who concerns you the most out of those potential teams? Who is it that the Niners really have to watch out for here?
Well, to break it all down, I think there's 5 solidified spots basically in the NFC when it comes to the playoffs, right? The 4 division winners. I mean, it could still be a coin toss between Arizona and Los Angeles for that NFC West spot, but I think Green Bay will take care of business in the North. Dallas looks like they'll win the East pretty easily. And it looks like Tampa Bay should be the favorite to win the NFC South. So that leaves those 2 other spots, that 6th seed and the 7th seed. Right now, I think New Orleans, with that 5th win that they got against Tampa Bay, I think that was a huge win for them. That puts them, right now in the 5th spot. Carolina, them signing Cam Newton just resurged that franchise a little bit. They went on a little bit of a tumble there, 3-game losing streak. They're out of that. And now they sit at the 6th spot. Everyone else, Atlanta is still in the mix as well, top of everybody else that you mentioned. Out of all those teams, the one team that I'm definitely worried about is Minnesota. I think Minnesota, out of all these teams, have the best roster, not excluding the Niners. I think Minnesota definitely has more of a playmaker, more playmakers on their roster that could just win them games late. When it comes to December games, late November games, where it's these 1-possession games, you could just kind of lob it up there to Justin Jefferson and he'll make a play. Dalvin Cook could easily take over a game. So I think Minnesota is probably the team that I'm scared with the most. And luckily, we get to see Minnesota. And that game that we have against the Vikings could actually clear up this playoff picture a lot, in my opinion.
That is an important matchup. I think that is the rest of the schedule, one of the Niners' most important games there, because obviously beating the Rams again would be nice, but it's not as huge as getting that tiebreaker against this Minnesota's team. Of course, you pretty much have to win the majority of your games. Like, how many wins on the Niners' remaining schedule is it going to take to get it done? Because right now, sitting here at 4-5, obviously that means we have 8 games remaining currently at this point. What does the Niners have to do in that stretch? What is this record that they need to get into the postseason?
I definitely think you can't lose more than 2 games. Those 2 games could be, and I hate to say this, but the 2 games that you want to lose are the division games, to be completely honest. If you lose to Seattle, I mean, Seattle's still in there as well.
Yeah, I would actually counter you right away. I would say Texans and Titans, I think, would be the games that you can afford to lose.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, of course. And if you're losing to the Texans, I mean, you should really be talking about your playoff hopes here.
Okay, well, let's say this. Okay, you have to beat Minnesota. You have to beat the Jags, and you have to beat the Texans. So that's 3 wins there.
And Atlanta. We have Atlanta as well.
We do have Atlanta head-to-head. That's another huge one. That is a big one there. Okay. So those are the 4 most important games there. And I think you got to beat Seattle. I think you have to split with Seattle. So you need 5 wins in my mind. So actually a little bit more than you. Like, you can afford to lose 3 games. You could finish the season 9-7 in my mind. And I think you could still get that 7 seed in the wild card picture there. Biggest opportunity for the Niners separate is going to be like their schedule remaining. The problem is I think they still have a tough schedule the remainder of the year. Now, Seattle has Russell Wilson back. The Titans are surging. The Rams, again, they're going to be out for blood in week 18 after this loss that we put on them on Monday night. The Vikings, I mean, that's, again, going to be a game in which the Vikings are going to be amped for. Same goes for the Falcons, who always seem to really amp up against the 49ers too. The Vikings this week, they get Green Bay. So you might have an opportunity to jump them right there. That's going to be a huge opportunity for the Niners. And then again, you play them head to head. So you could potentially get 2 games of separation in these next 2 weeks on the Vikings. As far as the Panthers, who they got this week, they get to face Washington. So they get a little bit of reprieve. In fact, they go Washington, then they go Dolphins. So the Panthers, that schedule is starting to work out for them. Then they face the Falcons head to head. So that's going to give at least an opportunity for one of those teams to kind of knock each other out there. I still give Seattle a little bit of a chance. Let me pull up Seattle's remaining schedule, just kind of see what they're looking at too, because they could easily go on a run. They've been a team that's had a winning record, I think, every year Russell Wilson's been there. So I don't think that they're going to want to just forfeit the rest of the season because they have nothing left to play for. They, as terms of draft picks, there's no reason for them to tank and lose out. They have to because they sacrificed their first round pick next year for the Jamal Adams trade. This week, they go against the Cardinals. That's huge. If Kyler Murray's back, that's an opportunity to put Seattle one more game under. Then they get Washington. Then they get us. So those are the next 3 games for the Seahawks. If they can lose that Arizona game, and we really have to go on a run here at this point to do it, but knock them out with a win there. It would almost be a knockout game if we could beat them in Seattle. The Falcons, their next couple weeks, they face the Patriots this week. Well, the way the Patriots are playing, that looks like a loss. Then they face the Jaguars. So the fact that we have the Jaguars kind of cancels out when it comes to looking at the Falcons. They play the Bucks after that, though. Their next 3 games, they play the Bucks. So they could lose potentially 2 the next 3. There's kind of like the Niners opportunity there. There's that Niners window there that the teams around them seem to also be playing some tough schedules, except the Panthers.
I mean, it's going to be just a jungled mess. I think it's going to be a mess and it's going to be chaotic, and I'm all for it. I love it. I love when the standings kind of work the way like this, and you kind of have to do a little bit of math even at times to be like, oh, wait, who was having this tiebreaker here in this situation? And all of that's going to clear itself out because a lot of these teams are going to play against each other. So that's a good thing. But I think
Saints, they play the Eagles head to head, and then they play the Bills. Would it almost be better if the Eagles beat the Saints? Because you have the win over the Eagles.
Yeah, I think it would definitely be better. If you end up with the same amount of wins as the Eagles, or even the Bears somehow make a run and they end up with the same amount of wins, then that's just like the best case scenario for the Niners, right? Because they have the tiebreaker wins. So yeah, we would want Philadelphia to kind of beat some of these other teams. I'm not too sure how many of these other NFC bubble teams they have left.
Too.
It opens up to 6 seed. Oh yeah, it definitely does. Now with New Orleans concerns as far as their health, and now with Alvin Kamara now missing games, Jameis Winston down for the year. That's not the same New Orleans team that ended up winning those first 5 games of the year. This is a completely different New Orleans team. So yeah, even the 6 is up for play. When it wasn't about 2 weeks ago, it kind of seemed like New Orleans was going to have that 6th spot almost solidified by this time of the year. But anything can happen. And now 6 and 7 to me are just on the board for literally any of those NFC teams, except for our beloved Detroit Lions.
Is there really a team that we're also eliminating? I know we joked that Detroit's the only one that's not there, but is there a team that you look at and you legitimately eliminate? Like, I don't see Washington doing anything with their defense, one of the league's worst, and now they have Chase Young down for the year. The Giants, I still don't trust Daniel Jones in a big game. I don't trust their coaching staff. I don't think that they could put up enough points when the going gets tough. So I guess basically I'm eliminating the NFC East teams aside from Philadelphia, because I feel like they have a little bit of that poor man's Baltimore Ravens offense in them where they can just win these tough, gritty games in the trenches, do enough running the ball that they could cause issues. They have a decent defensive line. I know that they lost Brandon Graham for the year when they played the Niners, but Fletcher Cox is still a veteran hanging around there that I think makes their defense tough on any given day. Pretty much I eliminate everyone else in the NFC East but the Philadelphia Eagles.
I would also add Chicago in there, because Matt Nagy's coaching for his job here, and they're going to
never miss the playoffs.
Never miss the playoffs. But I think this might be the year. I think it's a lot to ask from Justin Fields to just continue to try to help them win games week in and week out. It's a lot to ask of a rookie quarterback and that type of situation that he's in with not a lot of weapons. So I think Chicago is kind of on the fence. If they drop these next couple of games, I think Chicago is just about done. But they could also win the next couple of games. They could, they still have Detroit coming up. They still have, key games against Minnesota coming up. So, even they could go on a little bit of a run. But at this point, I think I would put them in a tier below, San Francisco, Carolina, and I think Atlanta kind of belongs in that same tier as them with the 4 wins that they have.
Either way, these next 3 games, though, you have to beat the Jags just simply because there is no reason in hell you should not beat the Jacksonville Jaguars.
I agree.
Except if you're, of course, the Buffalo Bills. But, for the Niners' sake, don't lose to the Jaguars. Beat the Vikings, beat the Seahawks. That's a great place to start at. Then right away there, just, win those next 3 games. Then suddenly you're 7-5. You feel in the driver's seat at that point. You feel as though you might be able to take that 6th seed. You obviously won't be able to really catch the Rams, I don't think, because obviously you're relying for that 5 seed. That's kind of like a lot to ask, because now the Niners put themselves just so much behind the 8 ball here with their season, the way they started off this year. The thing about it too, and this is where I'm like, am I being a negative Nancy here? This team makes it to the playoffs. Is there any hope for them to beat the 2 or 3 seed?
You see, I'm the other way. I have a complete opposite mentality. I think if you get yourself in there, at that point, anything could happen. We've seen crazy things happen.
Okay. What would be the best case scenario here? Because, let's say Green Bay gets the 1 seed because they seem like they're playing the best ball right now out of the NFC. Yep. Okay. Cardinals get that 2. Niners slide in at 7. I think that is the best chance for the Niners to advance because I think they played really well against Arizona. Sans last week with the Colt McCoy game. That might be the game in which I kind of highlight because I don't like the idea of facing Brady in Tampa. I don't like the idea. Well, it could be fun to at least go to Jerry World, right?
Oh, yeah.
Well, then again, we're not going to get the 5 seed to be the 4, face the 4.
Dallas is still definitely within. They definitely have a shot of getting that. I
guess, they could move up to the 2-3.
They could move up to the 2-3 easily. I think they have the rest of the NFC East really to play. So they're going to have a couple of freebie wins that it could put to potentially put them in a spot where they could get that 3 or number 2 seed.
See, I would appreciate that just because I'm only a couple hour drive from being at Jerry World. So
you could be there.
I'm just saying, let's put that out into the air. Let's speak that into existence. Niners, Cowboys, first round of the playoffs. Let's do it. This is such a convoluted playoff picture. This is so wild. But it's going to make for fun. It almost feels like a baseball playoff race at the moment, doesn't it? It feels like that playoff race, October baseball, where you have all these teams just hanging around. The only difference is in baseball, that team legitimately could win the World Series.
Absolutely. We've seen it a couple times, right? I think Baltimore came from the wild card round, no home game.
Okay, and they ended Baltimore, that was team of destiny. That was Ray Lewis. That was Joe Flacco, elite Flacco. And then last year, Tampa, that's Tom fucking Brady.
We have Jimmy fucking Garoppolo. How is that not destiny, right? Okay. In the year that he's supposed to lose a starting job. No one's expecting out of Jimmy. No one's expecting that out of Jimmy.
You're painting a beautiful headline, and I want to read that paper one day. I want to see that documentary. If that's an E60 or a 30 for 30, it's going to be on my television. I just think it's going to be on the television in my imagination.
Well, sometimes I love anytime your team in any sport is, within, a chance of getting into their respective playoff picture. I'm always hoping for the positive, right? I'm always hoping maybe they could sneak into that fit. Maybe LA doesn't figure it out for a couple more weeks and they drop a couple games after their bye week. And then now the Niners, beat the Vikings, beat the Jags, and they're only a game behind Los Angeles. If that happens,
we are so fortunate. This year has just been a fucking
100%
shit show. We are so lucky.
We're 100% lucky because really any realistic chance of us getting into the playoffs should have ended in that rainy night against Indianapolis. Us losing that game just put us in such a big hole. And then losing last week as well was just terrible against Colt McCoy and the DeAndre Hopkins-less Arizona Cardinals. That just put us in such a bad hole where
there's some games I want back
find
here.
a way. Oh yeah, you get a couple of those games to go your way, and it's a completely different scenario. This is a completely different season in my opinion.
I want that 37 seconds back against Aaron Rodgers. Imagine how much that swings this thing.
If you start
5-4 Niners team here instead of a 4-5 here.
If you win that Green Bay game, you kind of, you go into next week in the Seattle game, just, full of confidence. Hopefully, Jimmy doesn't get injured. I don't know how that would play out if he wouldn't have gotten injured. And
butterfly effect,
potentially
man.
Start
sometimes it just happens that way.
Exactly.
I want to see that
I'm
multiverse. We get to see the new Spider-Man trailer drop tomorrow. We're recording this late Monday night. I want to see that multiverse of madness. Can we, wouldn't that be a thing, just to peek into alternate realities where things broke your way?
It hasn't happened for the Niners, well, except for the Super Bowl year. But the years prior to that and last year, we were just on the wrong end of that whole spectrum, to be honest.
Okay. Mark Zuckerberg, when you create the metaverse, can you at least look into alternate realities? I got to just take a little peek what that Super Bowl celebration looked like in 2020. Okay. Anyway, Niners faithful, let us know, who do you think is the biggest competition for the Niners making it into the playoff spots? What do you think are the most pivotal games, not necessarily on the Niners schedule, but on other teams' schedules that you're earmarking? Leave a like on this video. Again, 49 reasons to listen. Go and hit that subscribe button. 49 reasons to listen, but 2 reasons to subscribe right here. Julian Martinez, Jose Corral. We'll see you next time.